All right, so my talk today is on smart cards and smart contracts. So yeah, I posted this picture a couple of days on Twitter and people went pretty wild. Like, okay, I taped a US dollar paper on smart cards. But those are actually funded smart cards that are kind of working right now on Bitcoin Cash. And yeah, and then once I posted this, people were like, "How did you get into this? Why even come up with such an idea?" And yeah, so for that, let's go back to a couple of months. Has anyone an idea what that is? Yeah, Justin.
I was behind the camera. That's the be.cash dev meetup.
Yeah, that's the be.cash dev meetup. Yeah, it's in Australia, as you can see if you're a bit into flags. And it was really cool because we were able to spend Bitcoin Cash at a lot of places, like maybe 100 right now, in that order of magnitude. And that was super cool. Yeah, but for me it was like, okay, I directly went like, okay, I'm gonna buy some stuff, and I think I bought chicken, or I think it was schnitzel. Yeah, if I wanted to buy schnitzel, I went to the counter, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna pay with Bitcoin Cash, but yeah, my roaming wasn't working. So yeah, I turned around. Luckily, there was a queue, and was like, "Can I borrow your internet real quick so I can make a transaction?" And of course, they were very kind and gave me the opportunity to use the internet. But that's not I think that's unacceptable for a currency to be like, you have to turn around and ask people if you can have their internet and to be able to make purchases. Like, people wouldn't be so insane and be like, okay, I'm gonna go to a different country and I won't get any credit card or any cash, because if they run into the no service problem, then that's a problem. Yeah, so I was pretty bummed about that. Like it made me like, I really like Bitcoin Cash, but if even like I went with Chris Pacia and he with me together, we sent a transaction twice actually, then accidentally, because there was some issue in the network. And so it's like, if even the if two developers of Bitcoin Cash aren't able to figure out how to use Bitcoin Cash properly, then there might be a bigger issue at hand. So I thought about that issue and came up with an idea, which I published into a paper just recently. I call it be.cash or be.cash. Some people don't like the name because there's a moniker for Bitcoin Cash that's kind of derogatory. But I think this thing wants to be cash, so it's a nice name. And I got the domain be.cash, so that's also a plus. So, but what is it? What is it? It's a secure sender offline payment system for Bitcoin Cash. So if I go to a merchant, whatever device I want to use, for example, a smart card, this thing doesn't have to be online, but all the information it needs to create valid transactions or sign transactions, or create something that can be used to make transactions, is on this thing, and I just have to tap my whatever, and I'm good. Yeah, those are the smart cards. This is my Twitter, by the way. So if you want to see more pictures of smart cards in all different angles, then follow me at Tobias Ruck. And so yeah, I think the best way to illustrate how these cards work is just to show them. So maybe Roger, do you want to help out real quick?
My first time too.
Me too. No, okay. So I've got this is a different phone. Whoa. Right. Oh, this is the wrong phone again. Technical issues you don't want to have. Pardon?
How soon
and we'll be able to get all of them?
They are mine.
Oh.
But maybe I changed my mind, yeah. So yeah, I wrote this pretty crappy wallet, but I only had 1 day to prepare, so I mean, I'm not sure if it will work, but we'll see. Like, this is an adventure, and let's see. So I've got 2 modes. One to like check the balance. So it says hello, and we've got 8 millibitcoin cash on there. So now I have to enter the address, unfortunately manually, so I have to use a scanner real quick. So let me just...
Scanning my QR code.
I'm scanning a QR code. Now I copied the QR code. Let me go back. So I'm pasting the address into the... whoop, I know I'm rotating everything. Not very used to Android. Whoop. And yeah, let's do 100. No,
so if I receive some money, this will give a big green check mark on this page. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, let's see if it works. So I entered all the stuff. So this would be what the merchant would do beforehand. Like they obviously would enter the address way beforehand, and then they would enter the amount like right at that second. So we can tap this thing. Oh, whoops, wrong side. Oh. Doesn't it scan? Ah, okay. Okay. Yeah, it's very, very dangerous, and but I think it will be worth it. So yeah, yeah. Ah, now it worked.
There we go.
Awesome.
So we should explain, the card did the signing for the transaction.
Yeah.
This card has no internet other than it gave the signed transaction to the Android device that then broadcasted it to the worldwide Bitcoin Cash peer-to-peer network, and then my phone detected the transaction, payment received. Is that the correct summary?
That's perfectly correct, yeah.
So you can now put Bitcoin Cash onto cards like this and then just tap to pay when you're ready to pay at places. And that's,
exactly.
That's the offline peer-to-peer cash for the world. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, didn't mean to hijack the call.
Thanks so much for Roger. All right. Yeah, and the cool thing is that, as I showed you, this works from a phone, and hopefully I'll be able to add iOS support soon because they enabled NFC. And then anyone in the world who has a phone can set up a store where they accept cards with where they accept cards. And those cards, like I bought this from Alibaba for $3.50. And that's like, it scales the more you buy, the cheaper it gets. So those cards could literally be today $1 each. And if you don't earn a lot and you're unable to afford like a phone, then those could be a real lifesaver to get you into your own into the banking into like to be your own bank. Because this card, it's basically like a bank account. You don't have to set up a bank account, and then you're connected to the financial world.
And you can make multiple transactions with the same card.
Yeah, exactly. So
you don't have to demonstrate.
Yeah, if you saw it said like now I didn't send a full amount. It was like 25 cents or something, and the rest was sent back onto the card without even the card knowing. So yeah, in case it doesn't work, but it did work. So I was prepared. Can you? Is it like important? Because let's move it to the end.
Yeah,
okay.
To the end.
Yeah, because I'm running out of time. But I'm not too much. I'm running out of time. Okay. Oh yeah, so I didn't animate the bottom box. Anyway, so the first question people always ask is like, does it store UTXOs? So for those that aren't too familiar with UTXOs, UTXOs are the things you own in Bitcoin. Like those are the things you spend and receive. And do you have is my glass there to drink? Yeah, that one, my can. And yeah, most crypto cards, there are some crypto cards actually on the market already, Kaching and Satochip, but they store or sign UTXOs. And that's actually, I think, that's not too good, because if the merchant doesn't broadcast the transaction, then your card gets kind of screwed up because it assumes, okay, this UTXO is gone. And for some cases, if you want to receive money, you have to have the card present. So currently, if I have his address, I can send him more money. I don't have to interact with a router. But with UTXO-based cards, you have to have the card around. And it's also pretty slow because those cards are pretty damn slow, except at signing signatures. And I tried just adding 1,000 numbers, and it took 10 seconds. So that's pretty slow. And sometimes it's unavoidable to get online. And if you're offline most of the time, then that's not good. Yeah. So, but how does it actually work? The solution is to oh, my throat. Yeah, water. Is the nonce. So yeah, this card has a nonce stored in it. It's like a counter that's just increasing with each transaction. And this nonce is actually linked to the blockchain. So for this card here right now, there's a UTXO on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain that has this nonce written into the smart contract. And then, yeah, into the smart contract. And then if I tap my phone, this nonce gets incremented by 1. So it's basically a new transaction. The smart contract signs the following, so the nonce, the address where it's sent to, and the amount. And then I send it to the smart contract, which is, OK, this looks legit. You can now redeem 50 cents. And then it creates a new transaction output with the nonce 1. Now the smart card has the nonce 1, and the smart contract has the nonce 1. So we can just go ahead and swipe again. And the coolest thing about this, I think, is that if you say, OK, I'm going to pay 50 cents, you're going to pay exactly 50 cents. So you don't have to worry about transaction fees, any transaction fees. It's like current credit cards. You pay what you pay, and you don't get charged. Only the merchant gets charged. With this system, it's the same. So for people using it, they're like, there aren't any additional costs for me to use this card. Unlike with current wallets, where usually the sender pays the arguably small fee, but it's still a fee, and maybe people aren't comfortable with being the person who has to pay the fee. Yeah. Another thing on the smart contract is that this is currently not possible on BTC and other chains, because the Bitcoin-based chains, because they lack the check data sig verify opcode. So this is an excerpt of the smart contract that's on the chain linked to this card. And this verifies the nonce and the signature. And yeah, and this was previously not possible before we had the Bitcoin Cash upgrade. And I think there will be lots more upgrades coming for Bitcoin Cash, which will make even better and stronger smart contracts, which will be used for payments, not just like gambling and stuff, like literally payments. So let's stream for 180 milliseconds or longer, however long that swipe took. Maybe we can beef up BCH even more. So this is currently completely unreasonable on credit cards. but we could make apps that are installable on smart cards. So you could be like, OK, I'm going to upgrade my smart contract with this swipe. And then I have recurrent payments. So I'm sending a transaction every so often. Or I have a last will recovery from Karol Czeszkowski, who wrote like a dead man switch, where you can designate someone who is like, OK, if I die, then this guy can redeem the coins after 6 months or something, which would be useful if you have a lot of coins on there. Maybe you could add an automatic cash shuffle. Still has to be worked out. Or, which I would think would be very useful, if you could have many tokens, different SLP tokens on this card. So you could be like, hey, I'm going to pay with honest coin, yeah. USDH. So you could pay with a stable coin that's backed by an exchange, and get and be able to pay with US dollar. So it would be literally like a credit card from the feeling. You would actually pay US dollar, but the fees would be around 300 times that, 300 times lower than that of a Visa. So it is a real strong competitor. And maybe we'll even be able to add or link a decentralized stablecoin similar to MakerDAO, if anyone knows about that. Yeah, I think I added some more slides because I wasn't able to time it, but that's a nice wrap up. Yeah. Thanks so much for your attention. So,
right,
questions?
Any questions? I think it's the first time I've ever seen a product demo work. Well done. Go to the front. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I've got 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
How did you broadcast the transaction to Roger without an internet connection?
Yeah, so this phone is connected to the internet. And the way it works, I tap the phone, and then I get this piece of information that's able to unlock the coins. And then the phone constructs the whole. It looks up the current UTXO, and then it builds the transaction, and then the phone broadcasts the transaction. So if the merchant doesn't broadcast the transaction, you don't lose any money from your card. Does that answer your question?
Wait, I mean, if you haven't got any internet on your phone, how did you broadcast the internet? How did you broadcast the payments? So
No, you have to have internet on your phone.
In this situation, the merchant has the internet.
Yeah, so it's sender offline.
There's really 3 people in the demo, isn't there? There's another person that you didn't have. The person carrying the card walks into the shop. You're the shop, and Roger is the owner of the shop.
Yeah, exactly.
So the person carrying the card had no internet.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Yes, exactly.
So
The merchant needs internet.
You paid them using the card?
Yes, you go to the store and be like,
Okay,
and
okay,
paid.
got it. And second question, do you need a card, or that will be done on the phone?
Yes, Android phones currently have host card emulation, which means you can pretend to be a smart card. Yeah.
Oh.
I hope they will add that on iOS soon, but yeah.
Somebody's getting it. Somebody's getting it.
Thank you for the awesome demo. I'm curious about the SDK part on the card itself. Like, do they provide any, and which languages are they in? Like, I guess you also store the private keys, not only the notes on the card, right? So you have to sign some message. And,
Yeah, so this card has a private key on it. What's your question?
okay,
I don't
but
understand.
you have to sign the message, so you call the programmatic API for it, right? Or something like that.
What language?
Oh, this is a Java card, so it uses Java, which is
Okay.
not my favorite language, but I have to use it. I also have to use Java on Android, but yeah. So I'm pretty.
Life's hard.
How do you enforce, so you have a limit on how much a merchant can, so the smart contract has so they produce how much they're going to take in the transaction. And so is there limits in the smart contract? Is that how do you stop a merchant from lying how much it says?
You don't. You trust the merchant.
Yeah.
Like there are ways to mitigate that, but currently, if you scan a credit card device, then you also trust, then you have some trust. So there are ways to mitigate that, which cut into UX. So for people who really care about that would be a good option. Like we could add a 10, like you generate a couple of numbers and you can use them just one time for a certain threshold. Like you have a ton for $10, a ton for $100. But that's cumbersome. But for people who are afraid that they are going to get scammed, then that's a viable solution that doesn't cut too much into the user experience. And I think the one thing we have to focus on is user experience with those, because one signature, as I told you, takes like 180 milliseconds. The hardest part is broadcasting the transaction, the slowest part.
Can you pass it back? Behind you.
Whoop.
I can't catch.
You were able to. Yeah.
So, are you imagining that the person carrying the card would perhaps have a large quantity of cash on the card, or are you thinking that they would have a small amount and many cards?
Neither.
Right.
That's not mutually exclusive options. I think they will have one card with a bit of cash on it, and then maybe another card with a lot of cash that they transfer in between. Or they will have two interlocked smart contracts where one refunds the card on a regular schedule. So you get like the same feeling with credit cards where you have like a certain threshold that you can spend per day. And if you exceed that, then you have to wait until you're able to send again. But there are maybe other ways. Those are just the ones I came up with yet. And I would be very excited to see how people use it. Because actually you can do a Diffie-Hellman transfer between two smart cards. And so they are like entangled. So anything that happens on that card would also happen on that other card. And then you could send that to a relative somewhere in the, I don't know, somewhere. And then you could send funds there. You could directly fund their wallet without them even noticing.
Yeah, what would happen if you lost the card?
So currently, your money would be gone. Like, yeah, I mean, there's an interface to retrieve the private key currently, but I will probably disable that or so. But it would probably be a smart idea to get the seed like you used to with a phone wallet, that you just restore. You go to the merchant, you go to a card merchant, or you install a phone app. Like, okay, I want my money back. I lost my card. Or alternatively, you do what I just told you. You buy a couple of cards, entangle them, and then you just keep a couple of them safe. And then if you lose one card, you can use the other card to get the funds back.
Stop the card.
What do you mean?
Function to be able to stop. Would you be able to stop the card, right? So no one can use it.
Yeah, you could just take the money out, and if they have a PIN, then it would be hard to it would probably be impossible to get the money from it. Yeah.
You can buy cards with pins, with have PIN numbers.
So one way would be to use those that don't have a PIN, and then enter it on the phone. Yeah. Then you have to trust the merchant that they won't store the PIN, but I mean that's a way. But there are actually power cards, they're called, that have a battery in them. They are like 10 times more expensive than those, maybe even more, but they have a PIN, and they even some even have a display. So that issue you raised would be solved by those cards. They would just say, okay, I'm going to send $10 million to this address. Do you agree? And then you're going to be like, no, I'm not. And yeah. And those would obviously be more expensive, but they would have the same user experience. But they would solve basically all issues related to smart cards.
Thanks, Tobias. One more question. Where's the jacket?
Thank you.
Yes.
You previously said that you need a level of trust with the merchant.
Yep.
What if you went to a store and it was a merchant you'd never seen before, an unknown merchant, and unbeknownst to the merchant themselves, someone else had replaced the card machine and was able to copy all the data from the card?
Yeah, so there are ways to mitigate that. like it always has to be like, okay, what's a realistic scenario? I think this might be a realistic scenario. So what this card could do be like, okay, if I haven't seen this yet, then I have to authorize this merchant, and then maybe you add a second pin, or you add the pin, you enter the pin, and then it's like, okay, I know this merchant, I can now send money to it, to them, and then if the scammer replaces the card device, then the card will be like, oh, I haven't seen this yet. Do you want to like do you want to edit? And then be like, oh wait, I already added it. Yeah, and maybe there are ways to add services that detect such behavior, which would add trust to those services, because they would be like, okay, I'm okay with that transfer. It looks legit. So yeah, so. There are a lot of ways to mitigate those things, but I think yeah, there's ample opportunity to resolve those issues. Yeah.
Thank you.